screen says 7 o'clock, so we're going to get started. Want to welcome everybody here tonight. Ask you to please turn off your phones, do not disturb, silence them, whatever buttons that you push, now would be the time to push those. My name is Linda Cohn, and I'm here with Elaine Apter, sitting in the front. We're both here from the League of Women Voters of Montgomery County. I'm going to be the moderator tonight, and Elaine is going to be the timekeeper. So she's the one really with all the power tonight. There are 10 candidates running for 7 seats on the Village Council. The candidates are Paula Durbin, Michael Measy, am I saying that right? Alfred Muller, Kenneth Niles, Bobby Pestrunk, Bruce Perney, Roy Schaefer, Martha Salt, Cheryl L. Tyler, and Melanie Rose White. So thank you all. The format we're going to follow today is that each candidate will speak for 1 minute in an opening statement. The order of the opening statements was determined in advance by random drawing, and that's why you see a number next to each name. The candidates will then be asked several questions on different topics and will be given up to 60 seconds to respond. The order will vary so that candidates will not respond in the same order each time. If a candidate chooses not to answer a question, just say pass. Elaine will hold up signs that indicate how much time you have remaining. When she holds up the sign that says stop, please conclude or I will need to interrupt you. Time will be allowed at the end for each candidate to make a closing statement of no longer than 1 minute. So we're going to be pretty quickly paced here tonight. I'm asking that no candidate or audience member interrupt a candidate who has the floor. Further, I respectfully ask that no candidate or audience members make noise or express support or disfavor to any comments. Such noises interrupt others in the room who are trying to listen, and it also makes it difficult for those watching via Zoom to hear clearly. And you can see on the screen on the wall, we do have people joining us as well via Zoom, and we want them to hear just as well as the people in this room. It's also true that this is being recorded, and that recording is going to be uploaded on the Village website after tonight. And so that's also why we want to make sure everybody can hear clearly and can hear the candidates and the responses. All questions are to be submitted in writing. We've received some already. I will repeat the question as it is asked, and this will enable us again to create a good recording of the evening and provide equity to everybody sitting here and also the people watching via Zoom. I may not be able to ask all the questions that are offered, and questions of a similar nature may be combined. People here in this room can submit a question by writing it on a file card and giving it to Nancy, is over there in the light blue jacket, and she will bring the question to me. Attendees on Zoom can submit a question using the chat function, and I have a screen in front of me and will be monitoring those. All questions must pertain to Village Council work, be in the form of a question, and be directed to all candidates, not any particular individual. So let's begin. I've done the hard part here for me. So let's begin. We're going to start with our 1 minute opening statements. And we're going to do it in numerical order, starting with those. So candidate number 1 is Bruce Perney. So you are starting us out. Opening statement, 1 minute.
Thank you for coming out this evening. It's really nice to see a few people here. I'm used to council meetings, which are very sparsely attended. It's nice to know that people are interested. Now, politics is really a team effort.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I guess I am. I'm hearing here people saying they're having trouble hearing, so you might want to move a little closer to the microphone.
Politics does make a difference. Politics is really a team effort. One man alone can't accomplish anything. And I've been privileged to work on a great team. This past council has been, it's just been terrific. I'm going to just touch on 3 points. One is promoting balanced growth in the community. I thank you very much for your attention. I see my time is almost up.
Okay. Second opening statement then is person with number 2, a Cheryl L. Tyler.
Pardon me if I sound foggy, it's the allergies. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to spend time to introduce myself to you. I am a resident of the Willard Towers. I'm founder and owner of a security logistics and management company. I have 25 years of federal law enforcement as a Secret Service agent and Department of Homeland Security. I served on the Southwest Waterfront Wharf 1 and 2 Committee Development Committee, where we worked with the developers, their representatives, the construction companies, and their representatives. And our responsibility was to ensure we express the residents' input and how the companies move forward with their suggestions. There are 6 skills that I try to follow: listen, have patience, discuss, bring recommendations, solutions, and work collaboratively. I look forward to representing you as one of your village council members. Thank you.
We'll move to candidate number 3, who is Bobby Pestronk.
Aye. As village resident here, I've noticed a number of things that can improve our quality of life. When I've talked with neighbors, I've heard the same. The current council isn't delivering that change, but I know it's possible and have a track record that backs up that belief. This election then is about change in council composition, about changing the way council governs, about the way in which it engages and respects residents, about the way it listens and responds. It's about having a plan to state in advance what's important. It's about moving forward together as a community. I'm running for council because it takes a village. By that I mean our village can work better, serve us better, and be more trusted. You matter and your voice matters. See this website for more information about me, and vote for Bobby, Martha, and Roy. Thank you very much.
We'll go to candidate number 4, who is Alfred Muller.
Oh, thank you. In April 1973, exactly 50 years ago, I moved into Friendship Heights. There was no shuttle bus, no village center with its numerous programs, no post office, almost no street trees, no sense of community. Over these 50 years, working hard as a leader on your volunteer council, I have been an agent of change despite recurring opposition. I have worked to improve the quality of life in Friendship Heights, and I promise to continue doing so if reelected. An experienced team can make additional specific changes, restart the 2030s group for young adults, add additional volunteers to our hardworking and very successful Neighborhood Advisory Committee, allocate additional funds for art and sculpture purchases, add trash cans and doggy waste bag stations, work with the county to open a dog park within walking distance, continue to work with the business community and the county to maintain a balanced growth of development. Thank you.
We will go next to candidate number 5, which is Martha Soul.
Good evening. I'm Martha Solt. I lived in the Carlton for 4 years and 36 years in Friendship Heights. I'm a proud federal retiree, an economist by trade, and I'm an elected representative for the National Treasury Employees Union, representing over 10,000 employees in my district. So why am I running? I'm running because it's in my nature to step forward when I see a need. And I'm not alone in this view. Bobby, Roy, and I all see a need for better engagement with residents, better security, and a plan for our community for us to decide where we're going. So why now? Because the needs are now. Your input, your engagement are necessary to make our local democracy work. So please vote for me, Bobby, and Roy. And we have a website, villagecouncil2023.com, with a lot more information.
We'll go to candidate number 6, is Michael Measy.
Thank you. After a career in university teaching research and administration, Susan and I moved to 4620 North Park in 2014. After serving on the Community Advisory Committee, I became a member of the Village Council in 2019, and with the unanimous support of my colleagues, I have been council chair for the last 4 years. As chair, I work closely with the mayor and our staff on day-to-day administrative issues. I preside at our meetings and try to allow everyone to speak while at the same time moving us through our agenda in an orderly and respectful manner. I have a particular interest in development and planning issues that affect the village and the surrounding area. I have organized several council sessions on this topic, most recently on the creation of an urban business district here in Friendship Heights. I worked with the Donahoe Group to reach an agreement to allow the 5500 Wisconsin Avenue project to go forward, and I want to work proactively and collaboratively as we move toward a new sector plan. Thank you for being here tonight, and I look forward to your questions.
Okay, we'll go to candidate number 7 is Kenneth Niles.
Hi, everyone. I've lived served on several Willoughby committees and also on the board of directors. I'm running for a position on the council because I believe I can make significant contributions. For the last few years, I've served on the advisory committee. In 2021, I wrote an overview of parking rules, regulations, and enforcement that was published in the village newsletter. And this past year, I helped bring ideas to the council, like the new welcome sign for Humphrey Park, the video events calendar at the entrance to the village center, and the new eye-catching sign for the village shuttle. Most importantly is the attitude and work ethic that I will bring to the council. I will keep an open mind. I will work collaboratively with other team members and with residents.
We'll go to candidate number 8 is Paula Durbin.
Good evening. In the 8 years I've served on the council, my priorities have included our precious green space and first-rate legal services. For example, as green space, Page Park has topped my list since 2013, before my election, when I worked with others to keep the park a park, and we did. When Parcel 4, that's across the street, another green space was threatened by construction that clashed with our sector plan, my resistance got very strong support. Thank you for that. Regarding legal services, in 2017, I nominated the late Norman Knopf to advise the council on land use. Now the challenge is to identify a successor. So, green space, first-rate legal services. I hope to continue to serve you.
We'll go to candidate number 9 is Melanie Rose White.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Melanie Rose White, and I thank you for taking part in our forum. I live in the Willoughby and have been a volunteer in our community since the 1980s. I have served on the village council since 1993 as historian, secretary, and mayor. Many of you know how deep my commitment to the village is. Each month, I edit the village newsletter. I also write part of the annual report, village surveys, and program introductions. I work very closely with the staff, from assisting Anne with her marketing efforts to helping conduct hiring interviews to attending events with Julian to promote the village. I am running for the council so that I can put my experience to work for our residents, making sure any development is balanced, enhancing safety, and collaborating with others as we develop more services for you, our taxpayers. I love our village, and I want to make sure it remains a terrific place to live and work.
And we'll go to candidate number 10, Roy Schaefer.
Good evening. Marlena and I love living in Friendship Heights. I want to use my expertise and experience to benefit our community. I'm a certified public accountant. Before moving here, I was president of my homeowners association in Westchester, New York. I was responsible for maintaining our capital structures, including our clubhouse, children's park, commercial property, overseeing 5 committees and a full-time staff. I work full-time as an underwriter of multifamily residential properties. My job requires an understanding of construction issues. I believe a council member must do more than make good decisions. Our decision-making process must be open, inclusive, transparent, and allow everyone to be heard. And once we make a decision, they need to be executed properly. I believe all council members must work with each other even when we don't agree. Bobby, Martha, and I are asking for your vote on May 8th. Thank you.
Okay. We'll go to question number 1. These were questions that came in ahead of time. I also have a file card, and I see at least one that came in over the chat. So we've got lots of topics here to cover. Some of the questions may have already been touched on lightly in some of the opening statements, but by going through everybody, we'll hear from everybody on all of the same issues. So we'll start. I'm going to go in reverse order this time with the numbers. So starting with number 10 and then going down to number 1. The first question was referenced a little bit already about the Montgomery County Council creating a Friendship Heights urban district that, among other things, would create an advisory board to help consider how to revitalize the areas, the commercial part. What should the council prioritize for future development of the village and its surroundings? And we'll start then with number 10, Roy Schaefer.
Okay, thank you. Well, in my job, I have some involvement with what's referred to as opportunity zones, which are basically developments that are encouraged through tax breaks. I know a little bit about what's going on here. I know there are some issues with possibly overlapping jurisdictions. In terms of priority, I think that's something that I haven't prejudged. I think it's something we need to form a committee on. I'm glad that we're getting a new housing stock here because that's a problem. I think one of the problems is safety and making sure that's addressed no matter who has jurisdiction over that. And we badly also need some more retail space and lower end retail space, not what we typically see across the street here. And I think that would also, bringing more people out would help towards our safety issues. Thank you.
Okay, candidate number 9 is Melanie Rose White, and the question is about prioritization for development.
I think that what Friendship Heights needs to do as we work with the urban district is we need to prioritize neighborhood retail. When I moved into this village, the Chevy Chase Center was bustling. It had practical stores. The dry cleaner was busy all day long. People were in CVS, Marvelous Market. Those of you who have lived here a while will remember those stores. And we can get all of the fancy high-rises we want here. We can have new restaurants, but if you don't have practical neighborhood retail, we are not going to make a go of it here financially when it comes to businesses. The restaurants need people to come here, do their errands, stick around, have lunch. And I don't know how to impress upon the developers the fact that they need to make the rent reasonable enough to attract neighborhood stores. I think that was part of the problem with Panera, why they left. Thank you.
Okay. We'll go to candidate number 8 is Paula Durbin.
I think it's very important to keep the village a village. I would like to see retail come back too. I'm not sure how realistic that is. I think that retail is being done differently. But still, I think we can try to keep Friendship Heights what it is, the way we love it.
Okay. Candidate number 7 is Kenneth Niles.
Yes, thank you. I think the development needs to be people-centered. And I think of things that people find attractive. Ice cream stores, like the food courts that's going to open up down here. Maybe a shuttle bus. I've heard talk of that running from this end of Friendship Heights down into the district, down past Rodman's. Things that touch the people in the village, and good retail, like Melanie mentioned, stores that you can walk in. We used to have the Lord and Taylor's over here, and now we're left with just high-end retail shopping or bargain basement things. So I look forward to an enriched cultural environment as this urban district and the Business Alliance get together and make it more attractive on Wisconsin Avenue and make it more pleasant for people to travel down there.
Okay, we'll go to candidate number 6 is Michael Mazie.
Thank you for the question. I worked with Andrew Friedson on this proposal. I met with him a month and a half ago, Julian and I, to talk about what this proposal was like. The exciting thing about this is it's the first time that we've done a cross-boundary thing. This urban district will connect with a business improvement district on the other side of Western Avenue in the district. And so we're looking at Wisconsin Avenue as a whole. Part of our neighborhood is on the other side of Western. You don't fall off the end of the earth if you go across Western Avenue. I've been asked to serve on the advisory council for this operation, and Julian and I will share the meetings of this group as it moves ahead. And I have high hopes for the revival of commercial activity, restaurants, small shops, and other activities that we've been lacking for some period of time.
Okay, we're talking about prioritization for development, and we'll go to candidate number 5, Martha Solt.
Thank you. I think this urban district is a fantastic idea, long overdue. It's the only way to get businesses to be talking to each other and convening and focusing on this issue. For our purposes, for the village purposes, rather than coming up with an idea, this or that, an ice cream or a retail or this, we need a big plan that we decide what we want the village to look like. How much retail do we want? What kind of parks do we want? How do we want to live? How much open space do we want? It's all part of a big package. I don't think you can prioritize this or that. We have to think about the big picture before we communicate and think through what we want before we communicate with, in essence, business organizations such as this and on the district side. We have to think this through.
We'll go to candidate number 4, Alfred Muller.
Thank you. We all have to remember that the village has limited powers and they're restricted to essentially what we can do in the village. The retail problem outside the village, we do have influence. People like Michael are able to persuade. People like Mayor White are able to persuade. When I was involved in the sector plan, the original one in 1995, which was an update in 1975, we persuaded businesses and others. As a result, we got the Whole Foods. But most of the retail is outside, with one exception, and that's the Red House that we bought. It took me almost 30 years to finally get enough support for that. And we now, thanks to the questionnaire that we sent out to all of you, have decided to try and get a cafe or someplace that people can drop in and eat. We have to use persuasion outside the village, working with county and state officials, and inside we have to do what we can to get a good place in 4608.
Okay, we're going to go to candidate number 3, Bobby Pestrunk.
I want smart development. Smart development actively engages council, residents, and developers in the highly structured steps of the county development process. Since development has benefits and costs for all of us, council, village, staff, residents, and other experts can influence amenities, affordability, and design in Friendship Heights and the surrounding neighborhoods. Both public and private property owners should follow the rules for development. We need more shopping and restaurants. Smart development will bring them. Our patronage will keep them. I want those with views and vistas from their homes to keep them. We should seek creative and cost-effective preservation of historic sites.
We'll go to candidate number 2, Cheryl L. Tyler.
Thank you. Having worked on the development of the Wharf 1 and 2 was an enormous project. And over the 6 years, I learned an awful lot about developers, construction companies, and residents. I think it's important to realize that we can't stay hidden. We are going to have growth. It's how we accept the growth. I think it's important for us to look at comparable areas and locations that have similar footprints of how the village is, to know that we need businesses, we need housing, but how much of the business and housing will impact us environmentally, financially, safety, security, all of those are very important for us to understand and to put a full package together. I think I bring a lot of experience having been a part of something like this and look forward to working with you.
And we'll go with candidate number 1 is Bruce Perney.
There are two aspects to this. The first is the Wisconsin corridor. We've all watched with dismay as the retail deteriorated and closed. That's a function of demand. They didn't close because they were making money. They closed because they were losing it. Now we're going to see a lot of new housing in that corridor. And with the influx of new residents will come new retail. This is largely outside our power, and it's certainly outside the village. But we can influence it. We do speak for 5,000 people and make our voice heard, particularly in cooperation with this new urban district. The other aspect is within the village itself. And here, as Al pointed out, our negotiations on 5,500 and our acquisition of the Red House was exactly the way to do it. We moved high-rise from the center of the village to its periphery, the benefit of all.
Okay. We're going to move on to our second question, and just so the candidates have a heads up, I'm going to start with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, just so you can anticipate it. So question number 2, this is a 2-part question. I'm going to ask you to pay attention to both parts of it. What would you do as a member of the Friendship Heights Village Council to address incidents of racial bias and or hate speech? And how can the council prevent such incidents in the future? So I'll start with candidate number 5 is Martha Sold.
To be honest, it's really sad that this question has to come up before all of us. But it's necessary. Doing nothing in incidents like this is complicity. Delay looks like complicity. When there are allegations of this sort, hate, discrimination, exclusion, you name it, dehumanization, they need to be reported. They need to be investigated. They need to not be hidden. And when these incidents happen, we really need to work together to what I call repair the hurt. The victim feels hurt. The community is hurt. One way to prevent it is to not tolerate it and to be clear we're not tolerating it. Everyone should feel safe and welcome in our community.
Okay, we'll go to candidate number 4 is Alfred Muller.
Thank you. The first thing one has to do is to take any allegation seriously and refer it to the proper group to investigate. The police, the ACLU, whoever is unbiased and will investigate all sides of a problem. We've all seen some of the unfortunate cases where someone is accused and then it turns out weeks, months, or years later, that person was not actually the person that perpetrated, but there were extenuating circumstances and that person, him or herself, might have been the victim. So I think we have to be very careful that accusations and allegations, yes, be investigated, but by the appropriate unbiased group. And then the council already has a policy that it will not tolerate proven problems of racial bias, or racism.
Go to candidate number 3, Bobby Pestrunk.
Neither hate crimes nor hate bias incidents have a place in our village life. They should be reported, investigated, and if proven, publicly condemned. Hate crimes and bias incidents destroy the fabric of our community. They erode trust in one another and make residents feel unwelcome and stigmatized. Name-calling, hateful speech, verbal abuse, and derogatory language, all examples of hate bias incidents are offensive and inappropriate. I was alarmed and saddened to learn of a publicly reported hate bias incident concerning a council member last year. While a public apology was made by the council member, I don't believe the person to whom the apology was apparently directed was present at the time of the apology. That step towards reconciliation and restorative justice might have been helpful. Training and education for residents, village staff, and council members might be useful.
Go to candidate number 2, Cheryl L. Tyler.
It saddens me to say I have been a victim of several of those comments. I think as the question is a two-part question, there is a two-part answer. There are laws, rules, and regulations that are out in our society that we're to follow, and I hope they are followed, and I hope the council follows them. But it also is the person and how that person takes it. And I can speak personally because sometimes people speak for us. When you are attacked in a way that is hurtful, unfair, racist, bigotry, and anything else you want to add to that, it's how I respond. How I responded in every aspect I possibly could, legally, through every avenue that was available to me. The pain still stays, but how you have the support of your friends and your colleagues is what helps.
We'll go to candidate number 1, Bruce Perney.
I want to speak briefly to the alleged incident of hateful speech. It was treated as though it were a hate crime. It was not. It was a bit of personal invective, heated argumentation. It was blown entirely out of proportion. Should never have been made a matter of public record. It did not rise to that level. It was not an example of hate speech. And I want to speak very clearly in defense of a colleague and a friend. He is a man incapable of hate speech or bias. His record speaks for itself, and no one who knows him believes for a minute he is capable of such a crime.
We'll go to candidate number 10, Roy Schaefer.
Well, obviously, there should be zero tolerance for this. We are never going to eliminate this type of incident, but the way we address it and reduce it is to have a policy that is in place to handle it, not to sort of develop one when it happens, and to communicate that policy so everybody knows about it. We need to take every complaint seriously and have a fair investigation to protect the rights of the accused and the accuser as well. So I would be in favor, and I don't believe there is a formal process now, but I would develop one. It should be vetted. We should consult with people who are experts, including not only social workers or crisis or whatever, and there's different types of complaints, but for whatever type comes in, we need to be prepared for it. And that protects the village, it protects the complainant, and it protects the accused as well.
We'll go to candidate number 9, Melanie Rose White.
I agree with my colleague Bruce Perney that this was basically an argument between two hot-headed individuals, and I think that the way to resolve that was between those two individuals. None of the council members were there. We did not hear what was said, and I think the council took the correct approach in addressing this issue by reading its statement that we will not tolerate any gratuitous references to anyone's race, religion, age, sexual preference, gender, identity, or country of origin, that they are inappropriate and unacceptable. But at the end of the day, it was an argument between two people. If you're looking for an apology, you need to go to that person. That person is the one who can give you an apology, not the village council.
We'll go to candidate number 8, Paula Durbin.
Hate speech has no place in our village. Unfortunately, this is not a hypothetical concern as you have without a doubt figured out. Oh. Oh, I'm sorry.
You want to be a little closer to the mic. It's on. You just want to be a little closer. Now it's off. Now it's on.
I'm sorry. Okay. Hate speech has no place in the village. Unfortunately, we seem to have had something that was reported or was called that. It's not a hypothetical situation. A resident has reported that she felt she was a target of hate speech by a council member. Just to clarify, the act was not permitted or authorized by this representative body. The council does not adjudicate disputes of this type, so it cannot take sides. If the council decides to address a dispute, it should include not just the perpetrator, but the target. And finally, if an apology is in order, it should be directed at the target.
Go to candidate number 7 is Kenneth Niles.
Yeah, I agree with a lot that's been said. Racism, hate speech should not be tolerated in the village. And I think that we need to, and do have the appropriate mechanisms to report these types of incidents. But I think there's a lot to distinguish here. Are we talking about one incident, or are we talking about a pattern of incidents? Here we have somebody apparently that lost their temper, and between two people, it's a he said, she said type of situation. Sure, investigate it, etc. But let me just say, I've lived in this village for 28 years, and it's a pretty darn nice place to live. We have a big Jewish community here. We have Polish people. We have all ethnicities, and I'm proud to be a member of this village. Let me just say that. Thank you.
We'll go to candidate number 6, Michael Measy.
I'm the last to speak, so there's an opportunity for me to come out in favor of hate speech, I suppose, to distinguish my candidacy, but I'm not going to do that. I share all my colleagues' contempt for that sort of thing. The case in point occurred when I was in Paris enjoying a vacation with my granddaughters, and so there I was trying to write a statement for the council, being 5,000 miles away at the time. But it was important that we have a statement, and we hadn't had one before, and perhaps we should have, because, as Ken suggested, these things have not been a pattern in our district. I'm certainly open to the possibility of having a process for dealing with these things, because it's not just this one incident, which we don't know exactly what happened. There've been conflicting reports, but there could be other things, as Cheryl has indicated as well. So perhaps we do need a process for looking at this inside the village. And I guess that's what I'll say now. But again, I'm opposed to hate things.
Okay. We'll move on to the next question. And so the candidates are aware of it. We'll start with 6 through 10 and then 1 through 5. Residents, we heard, excuse me, we heard from some residents expressing concerns about public safety, such as crime or speeding. What actions can the council take to increase village security and public safety? We'll start with number 6 is Michael Measy.
Well, we've done a couple of things. Some of you, I'm sure, are annoyed by the speed bump out there by the corner. We've done that. We may do a few more of those sorts of things in terms of speeding. And the police officer who we've hired is monitoring, in addition to monitoring possible crimes, is also dealing with people who roll through stop signs and occasionally with people who speed. The major initiative we took is in regard to hiring off-duty police officers who patrol during the day and have made the place a safer place. Now, that said, you know, Friendship Heights is not a hotbed of crime here. I wake up in the morning, look out my window, and I don't see the mean streets of Friendship Heights. We do have our concerns, we do have our issues, and it's important that the council act to reassure citizens that we do care, and we have done that.
We'll go to candidate number 7, Kenneth Niles.
Yeah, I think several things have happened in the last couple of years. One is this wonderful new program of adding off-duty security officers. And in fact, one spoke here last Monday evening, and it was so encouraging to hear this man talk about reaching out to people as they're around the village, enforcing the traffic rules and just the presence, talking to contractors about keeping their trucks locked and so forth. Beyond that, of course, we've added new lighting in the area. We've added cameras where they're appropriate. And the village coordinates when we have an incident sometimes between buildings. Maybe we get some pictures from this building or that building to follow up, so we have a good picture of what's going on in the village. But I think, and also with the speed bumps and stop signs have been an improvement with traffic safety.
We'll go to candidate number 8, Paula Durbin.
The council has addressed this issue several times, and we do have the results of the patrolling by the off-duty policemen and also increased cameras. I'm almost more optimistic about controlling that violence than I am about controlling traffic. I don't know. I'm from Hawaii. I've never seen people drive the way they do drive through this village. Good for us for putting the hump over there, but I just don't know what can be done to make people conform to a speed limit. I'm at a loss. I marvel at how fast they go through the village.
Go to candidate number 9, Melanie Rose White.
As you may know, the village established an ad hoc public safety committee, which I was the chair of. That's the committee that made the decision to recommend hiring off-duty police officers. And I think in its first month of operation, it's a tremendous success. Officer Jason Kokinos was here at the village council meeting, and I hope that you'll take the time to talk with him and his fellow officers. They're doing a tremendous job here. And I also want to point out that many of the businesses have also installed new security cameras. They won't prevent crime, but they certainly go a long way in helping the police if an incident happens.
Go to candidate number 10, Roy Schaefer.
Well, the traffic and the crime are obviously separate issues. When I was president of my homeowners association, this was a densely residential area. It was an enormous problem with people not following the traffic signs, and we did work with local police to make some changes. Fortunately, we had some private roads, so we could put up some very severe speed bumps without going through the approval process, which helped. But it's a problem, and it's always going to be a problem. But I think if there were deterrents to stop that, in terms of crime, I obviously support the increased police. I think we need to take maybe another look at either increasing it or reallocating their hours. There are other methods like surveillance and cameras. And I also think, I know it was mentioned there was an ad hoc committee. I think it should be a permanent committee because there are a lot of people here with security expertise, and they want to contribute, they can lend their expertise, and it's an ongoing problem. It should be a permanent committee. Thank you.
Go to candidate number 1, Bruce Perney.
Yeah, I'm Chair of Parks and Grounds, and I live in dread of the day somebody's hit seriously injured, particularly out in Hills Plaza. My particular concern is the stop signs. A third or more of those motorists just breeze right through the stop sign. Now, we've put up new warning signs with, and tried out with LED. We like that. We're going to put some more up. We do have a speed hump. It's gradual, so it doesn't damage a vehicle, but it tells you that your stop is coming and you should obey it. And we've gotten a boost recently from our new patrols. Their basic rule is that they'll allow that rolling stop, where the vehicle doesn't really stop, but he shows that he's approaching an intersection, but they will cite people who breeze through. I hope that's going to be a help.
Okay, we'll go to candidate number 2, Cheryl L. Tyler.
Having just a little bit of experience in safety and security, as several of my colleagues here on the panel have stated, the officer gave a very good report in that crime is not on an uptick in our area. What we have is people leaving their doors unlocked, their keys in the car, their windows down. You're inviting anybody who just happened to be out walking around. We had a surge of break-ins during a 1-2 week time period when they were all the construction workers and their cars were broken for the tools. Outside of that, it's not a big issue here. I personally would not like to see a police state with tons of cameras and everything else walking around. We can do some things that will make us feel safe and help us stay safe. As president of a homeowners association in DC, we changed the streets and didn't do the humps. We did that thing you see on the highway.
Okay. We will go to candidate number 3, Bobby Pestronk.
We have experienced robbery, assault, and unsafe streets. Some residents are fearful. Traffic problems need urgent attention before someone and other people get hurt. Intersections can be safer. I'd quantify the extent and nature of the problems regularly and publicize them. With you, I'd determine whether the current pilot police patrol is the right approach at the right hours. I'd explore alternatives and add-ons, signage in the village about neighborhood watch, cameras on village buildings, the latter controversial, I know. I'd work to make intersections safer. I've worked with the county at the intersection of Friendship and Willard. I'd ask for a 4-way cross as installed at Arlington Road and Bethesda Avenue. I'd work with County Councilman Friedson and our at-large county council members on stop sign cameras like the ones just south of us in DC. And I'd listen to residents and make sure we all know how to best contact police through 311, 911, 301,
Okay, we're going to
949,
conclude now.
801.
We're going to conclude now. Thank you. And then I will go to candidate number 4, Alfred Muller.
Oh, thank you. You've heard a lot of things that the village has done. I don't want to go back completely 50 years, but we have done a lot. And it's been very frustrating because we can't eliminate all of the accidents that might occur. However, when the police come down here, they tell us this is one of the least crime in any community, anywhere. We have added more cameras. We have posted up new signs that say you're being watched. We have introduced not only new lights recently, but all those street lights that you see now originally were paid for by the village. Before that, they just had these sort of globe lights that shone in the street, not in the pedestrian. And one other thing that hasn't been mentioned by my colleagues, every one of which I agree on all the things we've done, that statue out there of a policeman actually stops some people because they think it's real.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to candidate number 5, Martha Solt.
It is
You're on.
distressing to hear that there is more crime, but I think the way to address crime is to really determine the data behind it and measure it. We hear a lot. It's easy to have rumors about crime, but I know crime has happened. I think we should collect information and decide if we are responding appropriately. As Cheryl mentioned, things can change from week to week. Do we know what the proper response is for at that time? I would say that as far as crossing the street, you take your life in your hands. I'm the person walking around with the flashing light jacket because I'm terrified of that will be the way I go. We have to do something about it. I don't know if we bring in professionals, but it's a serious problem. And as I walk slower and slower with age, it's becoming more difficult.
Okay. We're going to go to the next question, and just so you have a heads up, we'll do 1 through 10 in order. Will be the way I call it. There's a couple questions that are related, came from inside the room, and they're similar. So I'm gonna connect him here and ask it as the next question. And one person is saying that there appears to have been some substantial expenditures made by the council for some activities within the village area, and asking about the opportunity for residents to vote on those decisions, to have an opportunity to be heard regarding various decisions that are then taken by the council as a whole. So broad issue there in terms of communication with the residents regarding significant decisions. So I'll start with candidate number 1, who is Bruce Perney.
We do our best to make the government of this village as open and as public as we possibly can. We use every communication means that's available to us. Now we have streaming video of our meetings, and they're too lightly attended. I don't know how we solve that. But over and over, the same thing happens. We go ahead, we make decisions in full public light. That's our responsibility as your elected representatives. People pay no attention at all during the decision-making process and then tell us afterwards they weren't consulted. It's very frustrating. Now, when some of these decisions do require quick action, particularly negotiations with 5500 in the Red House, admittedly, that has, the tenor of executive action. You can't stop and vote on everything. But generally, we make it as public as possible.
We'll go to candidate number 2, Cheryl L. Tyler.
I can't comment on the previous council's expenditures and their processes, but what I can make recommendations is that it is imperative that a council does communicate with the residents. This is your home. We are here to serve you, and I think it is important that we find ways to involve you even more than just the monthly meetings. Maybe we have quarterly reports that go out. Maybe you participate in a special meeting. There are ways to try and figure out how to communicate more. Zoom, as my colleague just said, is being utilized. People can participate that way, the monthly meetings. But I think maybe we try a quarterly report. Maybe we try special meetings that people want to hear on bigger projects so that we have a little more time to discuss the matter.
Go to candidate number 3 is Bobby Pestronk.
This is certainly something that Martha, Roy, and I have heard about as we've been talking with people around the community and meeting with people. I would, with Roy and Martha, make regular opportunities outside of the village council meeting, scheduled opportunities to hear from you. I would use well-known and well-practiced human processes to bring us together to plan and talk with one another. Modern organizations across the world have figured out how to communicate better and regularly with large numbers of people. The private sector has huge experience that we could benefit from in figuring out how to do this. how to do it well and do it regularly. I think there's plenty of opportunity here.
Go with candidate number 4, Alfred Muller.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I think we do communicate in every way that we can think of. I noticed there are a few people here tonight. The message got out. The message gets out for important things. We have meetings, we have newsletters. We now have a new system that can be texted. There's 500 people that have applied. Please, anyone that's not a part of that, give your name at the front desk. You will get special notices of the meetings. There has to be a two-way street, and I hope this doesn't sound argumentative, but we can only bring the horses to the water. We can't force the horses to drink. And the fact is, we make lots of effort to get people. We moved a meeting concerning the children's play area, specifically because we heard specifically that there were going to be young families that couldn't come. We moved the meeting, and everyone that was there was over the age of 50. We really try and try and try. It's not like we're sitting here wondering how we can get people. And we need your help. We need your help to come to the
Okay,
meeting.
thank you. We'll go with candidate number 5, Martha Solt.
I think this is a really, really important issue, and it's actually fundamental to my view of how we should work as a community. If we don't have what I call democracy, where people are participating and they feel their voice matters, then we aren't representing people. It's very important to have a proper process. That means outreach. Outreach has got to be, in my view, much more effort put into it. We can communicate in lots more ways. We have to listen. We have to pay attention. We have to make people really have their voices matter. And this has to happen before a decision is made, not after the decision is made or at the same time that the decision is made. We've got to spend the time to develop consensus for the best community decisions.
We'll go to candidate number 6 is Michael Measy.
Yes, on several issues during the time that I've been on the council, we have had special meetings that were well attended. We had some concerns about criminal activity. We had a special meeting and the room filled. When 5500 came up, we had a special meeting and the room filled. On Page Park, when we had the possible designs that were looked at, the room filled, and we heard what people had to say. At our regular meetings, when there's nothing exciting apparently happening, we have 8, 9, 10 people come to the meetings, and we publicize the meetings. We do what we can. Now, I'm perfectly willing to consider other ways of getting to people, of asking people to participate, and I myself have done that. And I'm too busy. My life is too crowded. You guys take care of it. That's why we elect you. That's what I hear. Please come, everybody. Write to me, call
Okay,
me.
thank you. We'll go to candidate number 7, Kenneth Niles.
Thank you, Al. I think that's the nature of the beast. There's always dissent with everything you do. I do think, of course, we can always work to improve outreach and the newsletter, and now Al mentions the text, if you apply for that and get involved. And what I've seen in the years I've been here, there are lots of opportunities to get involved. But it also happens that after the fact, we get a lot of complaints. I don't know, that seems to be a national thing. I think in today's world of communication, we have done a lot in the village to improve that. We have Wi-Fi in the park here. There's outreach for every significant development that's happened here that I'm aware of, been invited to participate. So thank you.
Go to candidate number 8, Paula Durbin.
If I understood the question correctly, it regarded opportunity to be heard, opportunity for the residents to be heard. They do have an opportunity at every meeting at the beginning of the meeting. Of course, we're not talking about people who don't come to the meeting at all. The ones who come can be heard at the beginning. I have shared the frustration without saying anything when people want to speak later. And there seems to be a lack of flexibility for those people's concern. I think we could be a little more flexible without sacrificing order. That would be my hope.
Go to candidate number 9 is Melanie Rose White.
I think that what happened in the case with some of these very large expenditures is the schedule that was dictated in the real estate process really took control, and also the limitations that a government has in publicizing a lot of what it is doing because of the nature of real estate was also seen as a big surprise by our community. And as far as the expenditure for the Red House, we were tossing around ideas for more than a month or so about how to spend that money. And we received different views from people. But I think when the time came to purchase the Red House, we were put into a different schedule, and I think some people felt that they were not being listened to.
Okay, and we'll go with candidate number 10 is Roy Schaefer.
Yeah, well, this is one of the reasons that Martha, Bobby and I are running, because we've heard it so often. People feel disenfranchised. I think it's one of the reasons people generally don't go to the meetings. They feel that the decisions have already made, rightly or wrongly, heard, or they're not really given input into the process, but they're told these are your two choices, pick one. And that's got to change. And like I said, I think one of the reasons we don't have attendance is because of that. I think one way we can change that is to allow anyone to put an item on the agenda. I mean, why not? Why should we presume that we know what everybody wants to talk about? And it doesn't mean we have to vote on it or make a decision, but if anybody wants to take the time and the effort to come to a meeting and in advance put an item on the agenda, I think they should be allowed to do that.
Okay. Going to change questions, and so the candidates have a heads up. I will go with, start with 5 to 1 and then 10 to 6, just so you have a heads up on that. The question we have is that affordable housing is not available in the village. Should that change? And if so, how? And I'll start then with candidate number 5 is Martha Solt.
I would love for there to be more affordable housing in our village. We're pretty built up. We have only one development project in process. It's already decided how many affordable housing units are going to be in that development. I can see with the more business engagement on the Maryland side and the DC side, more of that might happen. And I presume the question doesn't literally mean within our village, but might mean in our area. In our area, there's a lot more opportunity than the village proper, but I think we should support it. Many of us feel our kids can't live here. They can't afford to be here. That's not the kind of neighborhood I would like to live in. I'd like to live in a much more inclusive place, but it's a challenge nationwide.
Thank you. We'll go to candidate number 4 is Alfred Muller.
Thank you. The village does not have the power to have affordable housing built at our request. The new buildings are controlled essentially how many units would be moderately priced by the Park and Planning Commission. Yes, we'd all like to have more places for our firemen, policemen, and other public servants who give so much and can't afford to live here. I'm presently concerned, though, about our rental market. You realize 60% of the village, 60% are rental, either in the rental buildings or renting from owners in the condominiums. And those rents are going up, and many of those folks are being driven out, many of them longtime residents. So it's a real problem. But again, it's not within our jurisdiction to do something. We have to persuade the county officials and bargain with them. And that's why we need good negotiators like Mr. Measy, like Mayor White.
Thank
who
you.
know these officials.
Thank you. We'll go to candidate number 3, Bobby Pestronk.
Thanks. Great question. It's our children, police, teachers, firefighters who have trouble affording housing. And we want them in our village. We should have them in our village. We can work with county planning, as I mentioned earlier, to incentivize developers. There are scoring systems for this within the county structured process. We can also find outside resources to help developers make affordable housing available. And we can organize ourselves collectively to better state affordable housing as a value and to make it part of our policy, to speak to moderating rent increases and increases for owners, and to work closely with developers as they're thinking about coming into this community, and as we know they are, to tell them that this is important to us.
Go to candidate number 2, Cheryl L. Tyler.
Having been a recipient of a affordable housing when I lived in Manhattan, yeah, I was. It is a relative statement. It really is. And their goal in New York, where I was an agent in the New York field office, and as you know, government salaries really can make you afford a great place to live, especially in Manhattan. The city put a program together, and their goal was to build a brand new building, and I happened to be the original owner of the condo that I purchased, that was specifically designed for law enforcement, fire, doctors, people who were public servants who could not afford to live in the city but had to spend 3 and 4 hours driving back and forth. The same thing happened in the wharf development. We worked with the construction people, we worked with the developers. You have to have affordable housing for people who live here and work here. So it can be done.
Thank you. We'll go to candidate number 1, is Bruce Perney.
I agree, as I'm sure all of you do, with everything Cheryl and Bobby said about our desire to have affordable housing. Always think teachers, think police, people who are absolutely essential to the community and can't afford to live there. And this problem seems to be almost intractable. I worked for over a year, 2 years in Northern Virginia and Falls Church area trying to get affordable housing. I know what the difficulties are and the incentives not to do it. We're only a special tax district here. And as has been pointed out by several other speakers, most of what could be done is beyond our power. We can only express our opinions, make our voices heard, and say we speak for the people of Friendship Heights. But you know, we're an affluent, liberal community and Shangri-La. It's the truth of it.
Go to candidate number 10, is Roy Schaefer.
Right. So I think the first thing, there's lots of types of affordable housing. So, and I know that's not part of this discussion, but we really need to drill down and see what we're talking about when we use that term. All of the units we have here in the village are market rate. We're 100% market rate. That can't be changed retroactively. So we're really, and the new construction is already set in stone. So we're really only talking about moving forward, and I think we're at the point there really aren't likely to be many large-scale development projects. Anything new would probably be small scale, but I do support the idea of affordable housing for municipal employees. We had that in my last development where we lived, and we had firefighters and teachers, and it really was a way for them to live there where otherwise they would not have been able to afford it.
Go to candidate number 9, Melanie Rose White.
I certainly do wish we could have affordable housing in the village. A number of years ago, we looked at some statistics here on household incomes, and I think the average person here would be shocked to know that some of the residents of the village are really in a lower class income. And I think that part of the solution might be working with the county to institute some type of rent control. I know that's not a popular subject, but for individuals who are living here on fixed incomes, that certainly directs their ability to stay in the village. And I've heard complaints from people about their rents rising.
Go to candidate number 8, Paula Durbin.
I agree with Martha that affordable is relative. When I moved here from Hawaii, I couldn't believe what I could afford, the space I could afford. But that said, this discussion makes me think of a sales pitch we got from a developer who was promising all kinds of things, including affordable housing. And we found out later from our attorney that the affordable housing doesn't have to be built here. So maybe there's something wrong with what we can get away with. I hate to say it like that.
Go to candidate number 7 is Kenneth Niles.
Not being particularly well versed in this subject, but reading the paper every day, I would say affordable housing is a euphemism for subsidized housing. And by that, I mean the money has to come from somewhere, some government agency or something to support rent control, support the base that's going to provide apartments or housing at a lower rate than the market rate. And in this area where we live, incomes are pretty high and people can afford these things, but the people that do the cleaning and police our streets don't make the same amount of money. And it's a real predicament nationwide. I don't think there is a simple solution. I don't think anybody here has suggested one. I just think it's a real bugaboo. Thank you.
Okay. We'll switch questions and I will do, I'm sorry, did I miss somebody?
Yeah.
Number 6,
Yeah.
Michael Measy.
I could.
Sorry, apologies.
No, that's all right. Tough to keep track. I think the points of this, first of all, developers build housing and developers build housing to make money. What developers build and where they build it is controlled by the county planning board. County planning board has never met a developer it doesn't like. And so there's a certain minimum amount of housing of affordable housing units that they can put in. In our long discussions with the Donahoe Group, I pressed them, well, how many units will you have? Well, it's going to be 15%. That's what's required by the county. I said, oh, we can't do more? No, we can't do more than that. Well, how much would affordable housing cost? What's the rent? Well, we're not sure. There's a formula, and I never quite got the number in terms of what's going to happen. If you want affordable housing, please call your council member, advocate at the council and the planning board. That's where the power is in this
Okay,
respect.
thank you.
Not here.
Thank you. Okay, I got everybody now, right? Okay. I'll go on then to the next question. Do you believe the village center is being utilized to its fullest extent? How would you propose to expand its use? And I'll start with, we'll go 10 down to 1. So I'll start with number 10 and Roy Schaefer.
This is an amazing resource we have here, and it is used, and it's used quite a bit. I think we could do more. I think we can encourage people. There's so many people here who have expertise to come in to give maybe a one-time lecture. I know it does happen, but to make more of that, I think we could have more events for children. I think we should just ask people and what they want to see and see how we can get there. Some people have suggested putting on shows, and that may be a possibility, but I believe we really can do, and the staff here does a great job, but I really do think we can do a survey, ask what people want, and expand our offering.
Candidate number 9, Melanie Rose White.
I think as far as the hours that were open, I think the center is tremendously used. I would like to look into offering more weekend programming when people have the time in their schedules to come over here. And as far as surveys go, I think surveys are helpful. I think we really need to do a deep dive into specifically what type of programming people are interested in. If they have children, really get some hard, concrete information from them rather than just saying, oh, lectures or programs or classes. So surveys can certainly help us in that regard.
Go to candidate number 8, Paula Durbin.
Some of our programs, our events are really well attended. I went to one that was just kind of spur of the moment, and it was something brand new called the Winter Festival. And I was amazed how many people were here. It was a waffles breakfast with ballet. And it was good. I hope we can repeat that. I don't know how many more people the center could have held for that event. So that's a consideration too. I've so enjoyed the programs, and I really would love it if more people would have that same level of enjoyment.
Go to candidate number 7, Kenneth Niles.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a moving target. I liked Melanie's idea a great deal about surveys, because the way I see the Village Center right now, it's highly utilized. There's some wonderful programs here, and sometimes I think they're a little underutilized. But a survey would help assess that and, again, get people involved. Do they want something different? But I attended one here last month I think it was last month, on ancient Troy. It was wonderful. And I can't say enough about this center. The art that's displayed around I think monthly we have these, they turn it over to something different. It's just a very engaging place. Nice lending library out here for people that are big readers. So I encourage its use, but I do think it's well utilized.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to candidate number 6, Michael Measy.
Thank you. Let me first, I'm glad everybody thinks that this center is a valuable place. And let me just acknowledge Dr. Mueller here, because there wouldn't be a center here without what his work was many years ago. There was great community opposition. It was going to be too expensive. It was going to be a problem, so on and so forth. But Al persisted, and we have this wonderful facility, and he should be recognized for that. The second thing I'd say is that what we can do is space dependent, also staff dependent. Our people who run our programs work harder than you can imagine in terms of getting all these programs. They don't just happen on their own. And so they work diligently. I'm sure the possibility of adding other things, and we're always listening to what people might want and asking what people might want. And so I'm certainly open, we're all open to new things as long as we can handle
Okay,
the
thank
space
you.
and the staff.
Thank you. We'll go to candidate number 5, Martha Solt.
This sounds like a shocking level of agreement. We have a fantastic resource here, lots of choices, lots of activity, lots of involvement. I think it would be a mistake to pretend to know what people want. You have to ask. I would also ask, what groups or events or clubs would you be willing to lead? Not just passively participate, passively come, but lead. There's a lot of ideas, activity, community involvement a lot of political activity in the Washington DC area. I think the more we can involve people together doing what they like, that's what creates community.
Go to candidate number 4, Alfred Muller.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Michael. When we tried to get this center years ago, there was a group of people that sent out an expensive flyer that said it's going to be a white elephant, and it took quite a while to get this center. It's a pride and joy to many of us that had to do that, what is now accepted. But it is something, as one of the candidates said, it is something that we can always do better. We have a program director and an assistant, and they're always trying new things. There's also an advisory group, and if any of you are interested in helping, I stress helping, not just suggesting theoretical things, please submit your names. We need the volunteers. We've always had volunteers. This place was built on volunteers. Everyone on this stage is a volunteer, and we need you to help us. We are your neighbors, not your opposition.
Go to candidate number 3, Bobby Pestrong.
I agree with Martha. There's a surprising amount of consensus about what should be done, and it's basically we should ask you what you'd like to have here, what more could be done with the center. I agree that this is a fabulous resource. I also agree that, as I've spoken with people throughout the community, there are extraordinary careers and experiences which can be shared and in which many of us would be interested. I've shown my artwork and blown glass here. I've talked with other artists who have displayed here, and they're all delighted to have that opportunity. The staff is great and interested in new ideas, I know from personal experience. So tell us. One suggestion, however, has come up as I've talked with people in the community. Children with disabilities for whose parents respite and support is sought would benefit from additional programming here.
Okay, we'll go to candidate number 2, Cheryl L. Tyler.
I have enjoyed every event that I've been and participated in at this center. I think it's a great place. And those of you who attended the meeting at the Community Day, one of the council representatives or government representatives stated that this village and this center is used as a template and how it works. They can't figure out how it works so well here and is utilized here because they've tried to replicate it in other counties. So we all should pat ourselves on the back that we have a great place and we utilize it and we continue to utilize it. And I've met some great people at the meet and greet, and I commend the staff. And as someone said, it's a volunteer staff, and I think I like it.
Go to candidate number 1, Bruce Burney.
We all seem to be in agreement. It's a beautiful center, and we offer wonderful element activities. There's always room for more. I would love to see book readings by authors. I think that would be just an awful lot of fun. We used to do something like that. We could revive it. I occasionally run into people with small children who think we should have more activities for the small children and toddlers. That may well be true. I'd like to underscore a point that both Al and Martha made, and that is how heavily we depend on volunteers. I mean, really, we have the cadre here, but Ann can't go out and do the groundwork. For that, she needs volunteers. People come to her with ideas and are willing to put in their time. The most dispiriting thing is to see ever decreasing numbers of people at the volunteer dinner we hold each year. That number should be increasing, not diminishing.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking at the clock. I'm going to do one more question and then we'll go to closing comments. I missed another one. Boy, my system here isn't so good. No, I thought we just did Bruce Perney. We just did number 1. Okay. No, this is good. This is good. Check me if I missed something. So I'm going to do one more question and then we'll go to closing comments. And for this question, I'm going to go 6 through 10 and then 1 through 5, but I know you guys are helping me with that. So last question then that we'll ask before closing comments. And this came from a couple different people, actually. Some residents noted concerns with littering in the streets and parks, and especially abandoned shopping carts. The shopping carts are clearly coming in from the commercial area into the village and being left in places they shouldn't be left. Do you see this as an issue and what might be done? So I'm going to start then with number 6. Candidate number 6 is Michael Measy.
Well, I've noticed the abandoned shopping carts as well. My colleague, Mike Dorsey, is taken to throwing them away when he sees them. I think the answer here is, the village can try in this respect. We can't send out personnel to collect these things, but I think the buildings need to do more. The buildings need to, because people just dump the carts right by the Willoughby entrance as they're coming down Willard, or they dump the carts in front of other buildings. We need to have a community sense that's not right. That's not the right thing to do. Can't take the shopping carts and just leave them around the place. We'll do our best in regard to litter, of course, and we have operations that do that. But the shopping carts, and also my pet peeve, those darn scooters that are sometimes around, just left everywhere. There's real issue.
Okay, thank you. We're going to candidate number 7, Kenneth Niles.
Yeah, I think this is a case where when you see litter, you need to report it. If it's just a simple thing of picking it up and throwing it away, maybe you feel like doing that yourself. But certainly, I saw a rubbish truck here a couple weeks back, and actually, as they were collecting the rubbish, several pieces fell by the way, and I admit I was negligent in not pursuing it. It made me a little angry. I went to talk to the guy, and the traffic got crazy, so I didn't bother. And of course, we ended up with several pieces of our rubbish on our street. And I think, if Julian or the center is notified, they will take action, and particularly in a case like one of these rubbish haulers. As far as the carts go, maybe we could arrange something with the stores
Okay, thank
to
you.
pick them up.
We'll go with candidate number 8, Paula Durbin.
I see those carts and it makes me very unhappy. I don't know how you stop it. I think that the businesses themselves don't know how you stop it. And it's just a feature of our contemporary life. It's a very sad commentary on how people were raised, on the values they have, on the liberty they feel they can take with someone else's property. These are things that are taught early, and they weren't.
We'll go with candidate number 9, Melanie Rose White.
Perhaps it would be helpful if more of the buildings took the Willoughby's lead and they published an article in their newsletter or their listserv or whatever they can do to draw the attention of their residents. The Willoughby actually put photographs in and asked its residents to please stop doing that. Please stop leaving their carts if indeed they are doing that. And also, I think the managers of our businesses in the village need reminders that they are responsible for their sidewalks. I know Julian and I have worked repeatedly with the Gap, trying to get them to clean up their slippery leaves in the fall and to clean up litter. It's an ongoing, continual conversation that we have with them.
Okay. We'll go with candidate number 10, Roy Schaefer.
Yeah, so this is an interesting question because this is really a pet peeve of mine. Whenever I walk to Whole Foods, if I pass a shopping cart, and I usually do, I will actually wheel it back to the store. So I can tell you I am personally responsible for taking maybe 200 carts a year off the street. And because it does bother me, I've actually researched this, and I think the solution is working with the stores. There is technology in place where the stores can lock the cart once you get 50, and clearly they've made a decision that they don't want to do that. They want people to have that convenience. So they can prevent it. So then the next option would be they need to patrol the streets, and they just need to go around and have a van, and we can work with them and just pick up the carts more regularly than they do. I know some buildings have 10 to 15 carts in their garage. So yeah, I think it's a problem where we're not going to solve it, but we can certainly address it.
Okay, we'll go with candidate number 1, Bruce Perney.
Yeah, I'll be brief. Shopping carts, dumpsters, and dogs. We're in perennial pursuit of this problem. It's never going to be solved. We just have to work it one piece at a time, find out who's responsible, and make him clean it up. But there's no simple solution. It's just a long, weary fight. And the advice which was given is a good one. Call our much harassed and harried village manager, Julian Mansfield, and if it requires council action, he'll take it to council. And council will do something to bring the malefactor to justice, but it's an endless fight.
Okay, we'll go to candidate number 2, Shell L. Tyler.
These two topics are a real personal pet peeve of mine. I can walk up and down Willard Avenue and I can tell you how many trash cans I can find. None. I have to go on Geico's property to dump trash in it. I think we could put more trash cans out on the street. People do have trash. I've seen people throw trash because there are no trash cans to throw the trash in. As far as the shopping carts, I agree. There's so much technology out there. There's no reason that Whole Foods, Amazon Fresh, and all the rest, even when Marshalls was still around, and TJ Maxx, their carts would be down this way. We can write to headquarters and we can demand that they do something about this because they're littering our community. There's no reason why we have to pick up a phone and listen to them say, well, you can bring it back. That's not our job. It's their job. And I think we can write a very strong letter.
Okay, I'll go to candidate number 3, Bobby Pestron.
I too see shopping carts and scooters and litter of all kinds as an issue. And I agree with Bruce that it's a long-term and exhausting fight. Disney had an interesting solution in their parks. I'm not sure it's appropriate here, but it gives you an idea of what could be done. They found that trash cans have to be every 6 feet in order to keep litter out of their park. You probably don't need that, but as Cheryl says, we probably need more. 2 specific suggestions. Please support the Watershed Alliance, the Little Falls Watershed Alliance, because part of the litter ends up in our creek. And several times a year, they look for volunteers to do a creek cleanup. And I have called authorities a couple of months ago about 4 shopping carts in the creek, spoke with Parks about that, and there was a relatively rapid response. So it's a question of knowing who to call, as others have said.
Go with candidate number 4, Alfred Muller.
Oh, thank you. Some specific ideas. Number one, our village manager does and has called Amazon Fresh and has called what used to be, I guess, Giant and Whole Foods, and they will send someone out. It's another example which hasn't really come up, I think, the fact that the council needs to pat itself on the back. We have a superb staff, one of the best in the country, and they just didn't waltz in here. They got chosen, and the council did that. Number 2, I agree with Cheryl. I said in my opening statement, we need more trash receptacles. We need more dog poop receptacles. And we didn't discuss the dog park, but I guarantee you if the dogs had a place to run that was close by, we would be able to see less of the dog poop here. And finally, pick up when you see it. I know that's maybe a little demeaning, but every time I walk my dog, I see garbage in the street in North
Okay,
Park
thank
Avenue.
you. Thank you. We'll go with candidate number 5, Martha Salt.
Obviously, trash is bad, something we don't want. We should raise awareness, but I have to say blaming rarely works. It doesn't change people's behavior. I think we could spend some time trying to understand why these things are happening. I agree very much with Cheryl and Al about that the trash cans aren't necessarily where people need them. As to shopping carts, why are people taking them? Is it little thievery, or are people having trouble getting their groceries back? I think if we understand what's the underlying reason, we might be able to come up with some better solutions. But dog poop, not acceptable. That's the owner's responsibility. Thanks.
Okay, I said I was going to go to closing comments, and I'm getting overwhelmed by a particular question online that's coming in on the chat. So it has to do with development issues. We started out, our very first question was on development. So I'm going to ask the question, and I'm going to make it a 30-second question, which I'm probably going to get a bunch more messages about that. But since we started out with development and you already spent a full minute on that, each person did, we're going to do this one for 30 seconds. Am I talking slow enough, Elaine, so you can reprogram? Okay. There are a lot of questions coming in specifically about Geico and the Geico property. So that is a subset, if you will, of the development issue that you talked about at the very start. But there's a lot of questions here about the Geico property. So I'm going to do 10 downward to 1 in terms of questioning, and please make your comments to 30 seconds. So then we can move on. So I'll start with number 10 then is Roy Schaefer.
Well, it's hard to do in 30 seconds. I understand that the Geico has had their exemption renewed for another 3 years. So they are there through at some point in 2026. So it doesn't have the immediacy that it might have had more recently. But I think that the solution is to start a conversation with Geico and to have people from the council meet with them regularly, get ahead of what they want to do, and to have a plan in place ready for when the time does come when they leave.
Thank you. Go to candidate number 9, Melanie Rose White.
The plan that was developed 25 years ago for Geico was to have low, mid-rise housing on that parcel, and I think that is a good plan. I would hope not to see high-rise development there, but I think a mixture of mid-rise housing and green space would be the best solution.
Go with candidate number 8, Paula Durbin.
I agree with Melanie, what I would like in the Geico space. I often wonder if we shouldn't be thinking now about following the famous formula for negotiating what we absolutely can't accept, what is ideal, and what we can live with. Maybe we should be preparing to negotiate.
We'll go with candidate number 7, Kenneth Niles.
Yeah, recognizing that the Geico property is not actually a part of the village of Friendship Heights, but we will have an influence and a say. And I think I would defer to Melanie's view that we try to keep it at low or medium rise housing.
Go to candidate number 6, Michael Measy.
Yes, the Geico site plan has been extended, as was said, for 3 years. It would actually be beneficial to the village if Geico started that project right now, because if they go back to the planning board again with a new plan, planning board's going to insist on high rises on Willard Avenue. The notion of planning board is when you're close to a metro stop, You have to build to the sky. And so it would really be advantageous to us if we could use our influence to tell Geico, get going on what you're planning now, because as Melanie said, that's something we can live with.
Okay, we'll go with candidate number 5, Martha Soul.
Many residents' views are right over the Geico property, and that's a really important space to try to maintain what we want. But what do we want? We need to develop our plan so we know where we're going. Engage with Montgomery County, engage with Geico to try to influence. Yes, we can't control. And let's not enter the game when it's halfway down the road. I'm mixing metaphors. You get the idea. You know,
No, I'm sorry, there's no question. I'm sorry, we're going to hear all the candidates out. Follow up with them after. Did you finished your time, Martha? Go for a few more seconds so you have your full time.
yeah, I think we need to engage now before Geico's planning is, you know, down the road. It's much harder to intervene once plans are firmly set or influence or whatever we can do.
We'll go with candidate number 4, Alfred Muller.
Thank you. I was on the advisory group for this present sector plan, and we don't have time to get our own plan. We need to have people that are experienced and know the history and know the people that are going to make the decisions. So I'm hoping that I will still be there to be able to give my historical perspective. We have Michael and we have Melanie. The county officials know us. They will make the decisions. We will try to have the balanced growth that we've had up to now, but it's a tough sell and it's impossible if you don't have experienced people there.
Thank you. We'll go with candidate number 3, Bobby Pestronk.
County staff, planning staff are now taking a fresh look at the Geico property and 4 other locations in Friendship Heights. Creative design and reuse of these properties can yield open space to keep our community cool in the summer, ball fields, splash parks, swing sets, parks for adults with and without children, for those older adults and those with disabilities, and a dog park. And we should work for a low rise and speak to our priorities and organize ourselves as a council and with the community.
Thank you. We'll go to candidate number 2, Cheryl L. Tyler.
I think it's very important that we, yes, have a plan, but I think it's important that we engage with Geico. I think it's important that we start now. I also think that I'm all for the green space, I'm all for building, but I want some sky space. We live in a very dense area as it is, and I would like to see if there's going to be building of houses and mid-size, then let's push for that. But I think we can't sit back and wait. We need to talk to Geico.
Okay. And we'll go then with candidate number 1, Bruce Perney.
Yeah, Bobby made an important point that the county's looking at 5 areas, which is pretty alarming. We're going to have to stay on top of this. Regards Geico, I agree with the consensus. We need to stay engaged with them, make the outcome look as much like the sector plan as we possibly can.
Okay. We'll move, excuse me, we'll move more toward closing comments. And we'll do this in order 1 through 10 again. And back to 1 minute, Elaine, on your clock. You're good? Okay. And we'll start then with number 1 and Bruce Perney.
Yeah, if I'm reelected, and I don't take that as a given, this is a heavily contested election, which is a good thing for the village. There are 3 areas in which I'll be particularly interested. One, of course, obviously, is to finish building Page Park. I'm chair, Parks and Grounds. Believe me, there's still a lot of small things that need to be done, and there'll be more than one surprise before we get to the end. It's going to be a beautiful park. The second thing, already touched on quite often, we've got to make sure that we're on top of the development to the extent we can. I have I have a picture in front of my eyes. The mouse that roars. You know, we're not a big player in this. But if we're careful and we get in early, our voice can be heard. And the last thing is to increase interest in the council and its actions in the village generally, and particularly participation in our programs. We really need you to volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you. Go to candidate number 2, Cheryl L. Tyler.
Thank you for allowing me to sit here and talk with you and to listen to you and giving you the answers that I think are best right now. If elected, I will look to you for help, for advice, but I also will work hard and work with our county elected officials. I'm very concerned about the development and what's going to transpire for us in this area. I want to work with the urban development. I also want to go back and reassess, just like the study committee said they wanted to reassess the 6 spots that are concerned. I want us to grow. I want us all to grow together, and I want us to still be happy here. My aunt lived here, and so I've been here since the 80s. So I've watched this village grow, which is why I came back to live here, because I like it. Thank you.
Go to candidate number 3, Bobby Pestrunk.
I know from decades of experience that good government is essential for quality of life. We have to plan better here and more proactively. We have to engage in public and private processes to assure better design and the amenities we want. Let's protect our natural landscape. With thousands of new residents coming, let's create urban parks and play space for residents. I've observed 2 more things. First, fear for personal safety and property. Second, that you are a vast and untapped talent pool of skill and experience. To quote another saying, minds are a terrible thing to waste, and we shouldn't waste yours. That's why, as a council member, I'd like to engage with you. Let's create a better future together. You've told Martha, Roy, and me that the quality of our life and government can improve, so let's change things together. I know it's possible and have a track record that backs up that belief. Please vote for Martha, Roy, and me.
Thank you. We'll go to candidate number 4, Alfred Muller.
Oh, thank you, and thank you all for coming tonight. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "I would rather light a candle than curse the darkness." That's what I've been trying to do for 50 years. I do not ascribe to some of the gloom and doom or angry comments we have heard recently. Of course we can do better. By working together, neighbors and their volunteer council can conserve the many positive accomplishments that together we have. And I'm proud to run with a very diverse group of new and old members who know how difficult it was to get those amenities. For instance, the shuttle bus in the center. We promise to use our record of positive accomplishments, specific accomplishments, not theories, and positive new ideas to continue serving you by listening, by striving for consensus, and by making additional changes that will further enhance the quality of life in this community that we love. Please give us your support, and we won't let you down.
Thank you. We'll go to candidate number 5, Martha Soul.
Thank you to all who are here online and especially to the League of Women Voters for everything you do. We've heard a lot tonight. We've heard from 10 people who would like to represent you on the council. We've heard a lot about the past and history and things that have been done. But now we need to talk about the future. So our slate has emphasized the open democratic process as a way to make better collective decisions. I do not accept the defensiveness and defeatism about engagement and participation. If you're interested in having your views considered, receiving more information, working on a plan, deciding what you want our community to be, please vote for me, Bobby, and Roy. And also look at our website at villagecouncil2023.com. Thank you.
We'll go to candidate number 6, Michael Mazie.
Every governmental body can benefit from new members with fresh insights. And so I'm pleased that we have 5 non-incumbent candidates for the council, at least 2 of whom will be elected because we have 2 vacancies. It is also important that the council retain experienced members who are willing to work constructively with these new colleagues by embracing their good ideas while utilizing the expertise that they have gained during their tenure in office. In my time on the council, I've demonstrated my ability to work with people who have different perspectives and to find common ground. I am confident that the sometimes angry and negative rhetoric of the campaign will yield to the reality that only by working together can we advance our shared goal of keeping Friendship Heights an attractive, welcoming, and safe community, one that embraces the changes taking place in our region confidently rather than defensively, and in a proactive rather than a reactive manner. It has been my honor to serve you for the last 4 years, and I ask for your vote so that I might continue.
We'll go to candidate number 7, Kenneth Niles.
I've loved living here in the village, and I'm especially grateful for our village center and their program offerings. I also appreciate the top-line grocery stores nearby and the first-class medical care that surround our village. If elected, I will work to maintain these programs and services. I will also support the Urban District and Business Alliance that crosses our border with DC, and it promises to offer greater access to shopping and cultural programs, but also one that does not increase our taxes or compromise our way of life. I will be very supportive of new technologies, such as a dedicated area for electric vehicle charging stations, and given the likelihood of a new sector plan, I will be very mindful of responsible growth prospects and be careful to respect views, population, scenic views, population density,
Thank
and
you.
traffic congestion.
Thank you. We'll go to candidate number 8, Paula Durbin.
This forum has been very impressive. You really have some excellent choices. Nonetheless, I'm asking for your support on May 8th. My focus has not changed since I took office. I want to preserve Friendship Heights as the village we love, rather than a collection of high-rises, as I said earlier. To do this, I think we need, one, our precious shrinking green space perpetuated and restored, not paved. Council advisors in the mold of Norman Knopf, decision-making that is transparent and informed, and finally, the competence and contributions of our village staff and youth.
We'll go to candidate number 9, Melanie Rose White.
I hope that tonight's forum has provided you with greater insight into each candidate. I try to bring the same degree of professionalism and my strong work ethic to this volunteer position as in my 9-to-5 job. Our village is unique and special, but we can always find new ways to improve our neighborhood for both residents and businesses. Working in conjunction with my fellow council members and our staff, if I am reelected, I look forward to focusing on ensuring any future development is done right, that we find efficient ways to streamline communication, that your tax dollars are spent wisely, and that residents of all ages can find programs and amenities that benefit them. We have so much to look forward to in Friendship Heights and so much to be proud of. On May 8th, I respectfully ask for your vote for me and for the experienced team I'm aligned with. Thank you for your support.
And we'll go to candidate number 10, Roy Schaefer.
Well, thank you to everyone for coming out tonight, and to the League of Women Voters. They did a great job, not only here, but setting this event up. Being an effective council member, it's about more than making good decisions. As I said in my opening, it's about how we make and execute those decisions. I want everyone to feel they can discuss any issue we take up or any issue they want to take up, and believe that the council listened. That's how we move forward. That's how we make good decisions. My qualifications as a CPA and commercial underwriter can be an asset to the council. Along with Martha Solt and Bobby Pasternak, we have met hundreds of Friendship Heights residents. We learned how residents feel about the issues, know how to spend our money wisely, and improve the way we make decisions, and we continue to hold meetings. Friendship Heights is an amazing place to live. Martha, Bobby, and I want to work with the re-elected council members for the benefit of all our residents. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you to all the candidates, and thank you to all of you, the voters of Friendship Heights. I think this is an opportunity for you to follow up. I know there's more questions. We could not get to all of them. This is your chance. They're all here. You got them cornered. Please remember to vote on May 8th. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. or return your ballot via mail or take it to the drop box out front. No matter how you do it, just be sure to vote. Cast that ballot. Thank you, everybody.